place is frickin' frozen. Heater's blazing away, it's still freezing. Anyway, pretty sure past the point of no return of being sick, finally. Thank God. I'll share a little funny one. Kind of funny, but not. But funny to hear, probably. So, yesterday, we're basically taking turns sprinting to the toilet, if you know what I mean. And all of a sudden, the toilet stops flushing. Oh my God, no. We're both, imagine looks on our faces. No. Oh my God. The toilet, the back there's the valve. Very simple repair, $20 part. Failed. Then we had to roll the dice to jump on the truck and drive to town and go to the store and buy one. Survived. No life-changing moments, but holy shit, think about it. We've all been there, right? And it's the moment where you joke about it. Imagine if that happened right now, and it happened. Anyway, I'm gonna continue off where I left yesterday with that email from the man who, scroll back to the top here, has had a lot of experiences. We're gonna get a hold of this man, I think. I hope. Yeah, and see if he wants to come on here and have a conversation with me about where he's at today with what he has experienced and learned. I think that'd be very interesting myself. Now, where were we? Continuing from yesterday. The next encounter that I'm going to give you takes place on the new hunting lease that I acquired in June of 2019. Up to this point, I had found a few structures and had heard a few knocks and whoops on this property. Also, I had been mildly zapped once when I was able to smell one, and then got too close while looking for the source of the smell. So, I knew they were there. I just didn't have a lot to go on yet. The encounter happened the first time we tried to camp on the property. It was during the full moon in August of 2019. A friend and I were camped at the property doing some work for a couple days, trying to get the new hunting lease ready for the upcoming hunting season. And at this point, I had had 7 visual sightings, and too many non-visual encounters to count. My friend had had no encounters at all. He'd seen a few structures and had heard a lot of stories told by myself and another member that has had lots of encounters. It was his first year as a member of our hunting club. We had sat around the campfire until about midnight listening for sounds around us, but hadn't heard much. So we decided to walk the roads and see what we could stir up. It was a very quiet night, and there weren't many noises that I could point out and say for sure was a Sasquatch. I did hear several sounds that I suspect were mimicked animal sounds, but those were tough to count. Especially when you're standing next to a person who is, at best, a skeptic, who is just curious enough to tolerate your bullshit. We slowly walked into the property for about a mile before giving up and turning back, and it was around 2 a.m. And as we walked back, we both at the same time looked at each other and said, "Did you feel that?" We had both been zapped with that static hair standing on end feeling at the exact same time. Neither of us were using our flashlights due to the brightness of the full moon. We were both carrying handguns, him a .45 ACP, me a 9mm. Neither of us thought to turn on a light. Both of us drew and cycled the actions on our handguns. At this point, I got zapped hard enough that I couldn't breathe properly. I pointed my 9mm into the darkness and began yelling at whatever was there. Neither of us could see anything, but we both instinctively knew exactly where we should be aiming. Our threatening posture and my yelling made it get worse, and the inability to breathe was combined with the inability to stand as both my knees caved under my own weight. I now seriously feared for my life and had every intention of killing anything that wasn't my friend. I'm now hyperventilating and collapsing to my knees while aiming a handgun and yelling into the darkness. I gasped for a deep breath, forced myself to stand, and take 2 steps toward whatever is there. I know most of the theories about what these things might be, including the theory that they may be demonic/angelic in nature. So at this point, from pure desperation and fear, I invoke the names of God and Jesus Christ and demand that this thing leave me alone. I stopped breathing, hit the ground, and felt like my heart stopped. I gasped for another breath, forced myself to stand and take 2 steps toward this thing, and declared that I was not afraid of it, and that I would kill it with my bare hands if I had to. Again, I hit the ground, unable to breathe. This cycle continued several more times until it finally stopped zapping me, and we walked back to camp. And as we walked back, I got 2 or 3 more mild zaps, as if it were saying, keep walking. We got back to camp at 6 a.m. A walk that we both thought had taken 3 to 3.5 hours had actually taken 6. Holy shit. My friend witnessed all of this, but was only zapped the one time at the very beginning. And as I was getting ready to go to bed, I noticed that my 9mm had stovepipe jammed when I cycled it earlier. I've only ever seen this type of jam when a gun is ejecting a fired case. I've never seen it happen when an unfired case is getting cycled from the magazine into the chamber. I think this thing knew that I had reached a point where I was very willing to kill it, and it disabled my gun on purpose. I still don't know whether neither of us thought to turn on a light, why neither of us thought to turn on a light. We both had very powerful lights with us, but for some reason, the thought never crossed either of our minds. We never saw whatever this thing was, and we never heard it make a sound. But it was without a doubt there, and we both instinctively knew where it was. After this, the property went quiet for a while. We found a few structures, got a couple trail cam pictures that were at such close range, all you could see was twisted hair, and heard a few knocks and whoops, but nothing too spectacular. We did hear some drumming in the middle of the day once. We also found 2 broken arrowheads and some pottery shards that were just laying out in the open. We didn't think much of them at first, but they'd play into a later encounter. I'll mention them now. I hesitate to mention this encounter because it contains a method of tracking these things that actually worked very well. I am adding it for your eyes only because I get the feeling that you know how dangerous these things can be, and I think it would be a deadly mistake for this method to land in the hands of the general population, especially the research organizations and the amateur researchers that think it's cool to go look for these things. I found this method by accident while gold prospecting. Please omit this encounter if you choose to read this on your YouTube channel. Well, shit. So I guess I gotta scroll through. Hold on. Sorry, you guys. Alright, now I can go back to reading and sharing. I'll read that in a bit. You may go back to including the following if you wish. So, back to the broken arrowheads. We do occasionally find arrowheads around here, but they really aren't that common if you aren't actively looking for them. I typically find one every few years or so, completely by accident. The first one that I found was beautiful white quartz notched Stanley spear point that was laying right on top of the red clay dirt road. I collected it, and we searched the immediate area for other points, and we found what appeared to be a severely damaged partial point and 2 pottery shards. This made my 13-year-old son an instant Native American artifact collector, and he continued to blindly search everywhere we went on the property. The following weekend, he finds a much older Clovis point with the tip broken off. These 5 broken artifacts get placed into a Ziploc sandwich bag and put on the dash of my truck, where they ride for the next couple of months untouched. In the meantime, 100 miles away, while I'm working, I find another white quartz point with a broken tip. This one I find on top of the gravel laydown yard outside of an electrical substation. Definitely not a place where it should have been naturally. I collect it and leave it sitting in the console of my work truck. Then my friend, the one that was with me when we got escorted out of the woods, finds another white quartz arrowhead with a broken tip in his backyard laying on top of the grass. He collects it and keeps it. Then a couple weeks later, he finds another white quartz arrowhead with a broken tip a few feet away from where he found the first one. He collects it and keeps it as well. He's lived there for almost 20 years and has never found an arrowhead there. Then the last week, on December 12, 2019, I heard 3 distinct wood knocks come from the woods behind my backyard. The next morning, I noticed the Ziploc bag containing the first 2 points and the pottery shards had disappeared from the dash of my truck. The truck hadn't been broken into, and nothing else was damaged or missing. I searched the whole truck, thinking maybe they had bounced off the dash, or maybe I had moved them for some reason, but they are nowhere to be found. It'll be interesting to see if the others go missing in the near future. Don't mention this part. Okay, scrolling through. If you want to contact me or call me. All right, there you go. This guy's got a lot going on. I'll go through what he said not to share publicly, and I'll mark this as look into. And we will get in hold of this guy and see what he's got going on. Don't you think that'd be a good idea? I think it would be. Now, they're interesting, right? Be back in a minute. Brr! Man, had to rip back into the house. It is freaking freezing. So put on the old winter parka. Keep you from freezing my butt off of here to grab the hot coffee. There we go. Now, quick item here. I'm going to show you something. I remember, I found I was cleaning up my desk and a whole bunch of shit. And I have, you wouldn't believe how many external drives I have. Loaded with video and photos from, I don't know, past 25 years, maybe 20? Guiding, hunting, fishing, everything. And I also had a bunch of these little suckers. Remember these little memory stick things? Found 5 of them. I started looking at them. And I found some photos in there that I saved years ago. We're talking years ago. Now, I'm going to share them with you guys. I remember this. I forget where. And it was a photo. I think it was a man and his son. I think they were hunting. And they took these photos. Check them out. They said this huge frickin' thing was beside them on all fours, paralleling. And they got 3 pictures of it. It's a long time ago, so who knows the quality of the phone, but check this out. Look at that green hue to his back. Isn't it amazing? You can see obviously this large mass, excuse me, moved and was there, obviously. And then they went back and they put some kind of a measuring stick there with the guy beside it. I'll zoom in on this. What? You realize how absolutely massive that thing is? Holy shit. But there you go. That sure gives you an idea of, you know, when people say, my gun wouldn't do anything to it. Or I felt nothing I had would even harm it. I just piss it off when somebody's got a Magnum rifle on them. But there you go. Now, if anybody knows this person, or if this person is here following this channel, email me. Us. Get a hold of me. I'd love to hear the exact word for word, firsthand description of what went down that day. But isn't that amazing? I mean, these were saved on my memory stick, I don't know, I think back in 2008 or something. How about that? Wow. Crazy, right? I'm sure somebody out there seeing those photos is familiar with whatever went down. If you are, get a hold of me. All right? Now, excuse me. Who do we got? What do we got? This next email is titled, Out for a Sunday Ride. Hi Steve, hope this message finds you and Sarah and the family well. This is Joanne from Vermont. I wanted to share this with you and the group. My husband and myself went out for a ride on our ATV in Ludlow, Vermont this past fall on a Sunday. We did a normal loop and stopped and had lunch at a little snack shack and proceeded on. We backtracked and ended up on another trailhead, a ways from where we started. This trail was really rough and it was out there. We came to these trees crossed, as you can see in the video. We passed under them, and for some reason decided to turn around and go back. We just sat in the machine looking at these trees. You can hear the machine at the end taking off. I never noticed any sound on this video until the next day. I've had people tell me it's a plane or a corn combine. Steve, there wasn't anything around us that was making any noises. None. And we were out there. It makes the hair on my neck stand up. And what's really strange, I never heard anything on this video. And I know I played it that day. I always look them over when I get home. And I have one more thing I want to share. In 2017 or 18, I got into bed and was reading a book when I dozed off. I opened my eyes, and I swear to this day, there is a huge black dog sitting on my bed. I said, "Oh, come on, Joanne." I closed my eyes again, this time closing them tight, because I couldn't believe it. I opened them again, and the dog was still there. So I closed them again, opened them, and then it was gone. I'm telling you this because so many here have experiences as this. I know in my heart 100% I saw this, especially after opening and closing my eyes several times. The thing looked like from ancient times, some sort of a wolfhound. Do I think there are things out there we don't understand? Oh yes, I do. And trust me, I would never ever make something like this up. I would have to be extremely creative to think this one up, and I'm not. LOL. Thank you for this platform. Take care. Also, my travel advisor always told me to carry charcoal pills with me should I ever feel sick regarding the change of food and water. Thank you. Take care. Yeah, same. We've had them. I took them the other day. But actually, I just went out to the house. I felt like I was fading bad. Anyways, Sarah just pumped me up some food and some ivermectin. But anyway, there you go. Now, hold on a minute. All right. Just had to download the video and to turn the heater off so we could hear clearly. Or I could. Let's have a listen to this. That's an odd recording because in the beginning you got the quad sound at the very beginning, the very end. I don't know how that happened, but I'm not an audio guy, to say the least. Let's zoom in on this tree. Definitely broken tree. Odd that you just sat there staring at it. Whatever happened, happened. Weird. Definitely weird. Very odd. Very, very odd. Everybody's got an answer though, right? You know what I mean? When you tell your friends, they just want to shrug it off and give a quick snap answer and drop the topic. Appreciate the share. Creepy. See if anybody else in Vermont's got something to add to that. Maybe. Who knows? Who's next here? What do we got? A little off track here. These are all recent, by the way, as in very recent, these two emails. This is titled Communication. Hi, Steve. This is a weird one, but I'm going ahead with it. Excuse me. I have had a prolonged contact with these things we call Sabe in my country, the UK. And I've noticed over the years there was a subtle communication. This is non-verbal and non-visual and non-auditory, so I can only suggest that it might be telepathy of some sort. failing that it could be a scent, like a pheromone or an infrasound or any combination of these. I thought it might be useful to make a list on how I translate those communications. Your follower's assistance in this would greatly help. Number one has to be the feeling of being watched. Okay, I think that is anxiety on their behalf, and they communicate that anxiety to us by forcing us to feel watched. It may mean we're in their territory or just a sensitive area. This can force the receiver to feel uneasy, or it may be very slight depending on the level of anxiety and the visual signs the receiver displays. For instance, if the message does not appear to have made an impact, it will be heightened. Many people are oblivious to these communications, but we are all able to develop an awareness if we allow ourselves to communicate in this way. Second is a feeling of being in the way. This usually comes across as you have to move or you have to turn around or pack up your things and go. This is usually their way of saying you're in the way, not usually territorial, possibly outside the territory. You're in my way. And it is simply aimed at removing you from that vicinity so they can get past or do something. Third, a feeling of being accompanied. Sometimes small sounds are heard to alert you to the direction. This is not aggressive. It is designed to warn you territorially. You are possibly a known person and have been seen often. This can include being walked out of a sensitive area. Fourth, sometimes if they know you and are comfortable with your presence, they will become mischievous. This can be confusing, like a joke you don't get. Be warned, their sense of humor includes a direct hit with a stone to the head or similar. Fifth, mind speak. This can be very discerning and or distressing for the receiver. It will usually occur during a crisis of some sort or just a close encounter with an aggressive individual. This is not strictly a communication. It is something that occurs in a human mind as a result of an emergency communication. It will create random messages depending on the person, usually of a protective or alerting nature. The messages are often instructive and commanding and can be long-lasting. That's as far as I've got. Obviously, there will be differences between each group or individuals, but from what I have gathered so far, there seems to be a lot of similarities between groups and individuals. I'm always learning. Any additions to the list? ? Thanks, Steve. Best regards, David. All right, David, keep an eye on the comment section below. People are going to be hammering away there for sure. Thanks for that email, man. And it's just refreshing. Every time we hear from people whose wheels are turning, bravo. I love it when people's wheels turn on their own. Now, excuse me, quick one. Yeah, quick note. I had a thought. A quick thought, which makes me kind of go, huh? You know, there's a lot of people out there who have a huge interest in the UFOs, whatever those crafts are in the sky, right, and in the water too. And it's funny. There's a couple of celebrities. I think the Joe Rogan podcast. I keep seeing clips coming up from his podcast of him. He's seems to be, having an interest in UFOs currently. Not that I do not. How should I say this? I'm using him as an example. I don't have any special concern for any one individual, especially celebrities, just so you know. But this is a great example because I know that it's well known. He's got a huge platform, reach for a lot of people. A lot of people know his stance on various topics, and he scoffs at the thought of these people being real, these forest people. But and I'm using him as an easy example of this. How could anyone, accept the fact that there are possibly crafts, space crafts, UFOs, ships, whatever you want to call them, coming here, and accepting that as fact, but denying that there might be a hairy people running around the forest? It does make sense, because if you can accept the fact that there is these ships, these crafts, possibly coming from who knows where to our home, how do you know what is or isn't on board? Do you know what I mean? I think the fact, anybody who can accept the fact that these space or maybe they think their mind, maybe they're convinced that these spacecrafts, these spaceships are arriving here. Well, that basically means that anything's possible, especially running around the forest on the face of the earth next to us, whether they're here full time or not. Maybe these beings came in a craft. You never know. Right? But do you see the point I'm trying to get at here? How somebody's mind can accept the fact there's UFOs flying around, but they can't accept that there might be something non-human running around. How come your brain isn't at least linking up the two and saying, well, I guess it's a possibility because maybe possibly they came on the ships. Do you know what I mean? I'm not saying they do come on the spacecraft. I'm just saying. Like I said, from day one, I find it more amazing watching how humans go through this lifetime. It's very amazing to watch. Pretty weird, right? Pretty weird. Some people can accept some things and others not when they could possibly be easily both be connected. Easily. Now, who's next? Mark, this is red. This is titled Puzzle Pieces Finally Revealed. All right. Good afternoon. My name is Jess. Feel free to share my name. I live in Oroville, California. So this is going to be a little bit all over the place, but it'll make sense in the end. The rancid meat smell, the dogs being petrified, the overwhelming sense of doom and fear. The First Nations people often describe these people as their forest brothers. Zero punctuation. I'll try to make it smooth. It's funny how that happens, isn't it? Like nothing. Not a period. Comma, nothing. Dogs being petrified, the overwhelming sense of doom and fear. The First Nations people often describe these people as their forest brothers. They also describe them as a possessed tribe. Let's look at that. If you were some of the fallen angels and you wanted to possess something, why not pick the biggest, baddest body around? Plus, you're out in the forest away from people. It just makes sense. I've also seen these creatures with tree trunks in their hand, carrying them by the tail, which would explain the skunk smell. My friend lived in Clipper Mills, and she told me, look at me in the eye. She found this in her back, 40, woven together. She also found a big urine spot in the snow, bigger than any human could pee. And she told me that her brother was on the porch playing his flute while two of these monstrous humans were in the trees watching. Are they hunted? Absolutely. Sorry. Are they hunted? Absolutely. Zero punctuation, all right? Nothing. She said she saw helicopters and military vehicles enter the back of her property and was asked to leave by the military when they arrived. I hope all your viewers can chew on this. Do I believe these are subhuman giant men who are hairy? Absolutely. Do I believe they possess supernatural powers? No, I do not. But I do believe the entities that possess these beings have supernatural powers, and they are transferred to these beings when they are possessed. There's been lots of reports where some of them smell, and some of them don't. Well, let's just think maybe those were the ones that were possessed. There's all kinds of accounts where houses were haunted, and there was rancid smells of rotten meat. And if you're covered with hair and you're carrying 3 skunks by the tail, chances are you got sprayed. So why wouldn't these creatures hunt these skunks and get sprayed? They would carry that smell and then run across a human, and it would be easy to associate. They smell like skunks. Also, dogs always act scared and afraid when there's poltergeist around. These are just my thoughts, but I'm pretty sure I'm right. You have a wonderful week, Steve. God bless you and your family, and appreciate you for the time. Keep doing what you're doing. Sooner or later, the truth's going to come out. True. Appreciate it. You never know. The truth is out. We just keep sharing it. The truth is out. I mean, most of the truth. It's just the mystery of what's behind the truth now, right? Yeah, it's a thought. Carrying skunks around getting sprayed, but unfortunately, almost every single rural person is very familiar with exactly what a skunk smells like. And nobody's ever said it smells exactly like skunk, period. It's a combination. Elk Valley, spidey senses. Proof Sabe can become invisible. There's a video link enclosed. You might want to watch it first. The one is not very long. There's more at the bottom too. Continued if you want. Excuse me. I have included a link to a video that shows a partially invisible entity walking around a Jeep. Yeah, I've had that forwarded to me about 500 times. And it's a video, right? But one thing... Alright, let's discuss it. We're going to read your email. And then I'll comment at the end. I have included a link to a video that shows a partially invisible entity walking around a Jeep. Is this a cloaked juvenile Sabe? Because of the eye shine and the translucence of his body against the Jeep, my instincts are inclined to believe the video with some reservation. I think it's safe to say that others have had experiences where their trail camera triggered and nothing showed up on the screen. Is this proof that Sabe can change their frequency and become invisible in this way? Does the speed of movement that the entity in the video is showing, especially directly in front of the camera, indicate a higher frequency to their body? Does this help explain why they are able to move so fast? Is that why we can see eye shine peering out from behind fairly small trees with nothing else showing? Is this why they are known to require large amounts of food to maintain their energy? Is the fact that this looks like a juvenile indicate that it needs more practice to become fully invisible? Is that why we can finally see this one on camera? However, the skeptic in me asks, is this AI generated? I ask this because of what it would take in order to track the eye shine in conjunction with the translucence of the body against the Jeep. You can still see the Jeep through its body as it moves around. All right. Note for me at the bottom I'm reading. All right, I'm just trying to scoot through here. All right, Meg. Gotcha. Port Bernie, sorry, guys. Here's a photo, though. I won't show the photo. Keep it private. Just salmon. It's just a fish picture. Huge fish. And it's not the same picture my buddy had, no. Anyways, okay, appreciate that. Now, I'm sure all of you have, if I remember to, I'll put the link, I guess, in the video. But just the thing is, for that, I had that video shared with me a million times. And I kind of glanced at it, and it's just a video. It looks AI to me in a way. I don't have a clue because I'm not a professional at dissecting video. But here's the thing, though. If anybody's really that curious as to if that is authentic or not, I think the bigger one way to look at it would be to see how hard it is to mimic that video. Just like the Patterson film. You can't mimic it. You can't. So, could anybody come up with and make that exact same video today generated on a computer? That would put everything to rest real quick, right? Another thing too, I don't know the channel, I don't know what's on the channel, I don't know the content creator. Is it a channel, and it's very easy to tell, is it a channel that possibly needs a bunch of subs or no? I don't know, I haven't a clue. But it's a question that I always look for that right off the bat. Try to see the source, what's behind the channel, how do they govern themselves, carry themselves in their channel? Are they begging for attention? Do they need subscribers? Do they really need you to like, subscribe, and share? Because that demeanor is usually that quality in that person is usually accompanies anything to get attention. Right? I'm probably not sounding smooth, but believe me, I'm not smooth the past few days. There we go. Do I think it's authentic? I haven't a frickin' clue. I haven't a clue. Today, with what can be created today, it's pretty tough. Another thing too is how many emails have we had here? I think it's like 75% of us are hunters here. If somebody caught that on trail camera today, why hasn't it never ever been caught on that specific image and motion being? Why has that never been caught on trail camera ever before? You know what I mean? Patterns. You look for patterns. Now, if somebody started coming up with that exact same being, the exact same form of capture on a trail camera, hundreds of miles away, if not states or provinces or continents away, and we start seeing a pattern, then it'd be like, hell yeah, that's real. You know what I mean? Now, what do we got here? Okay, this email is titled Old Man's Pondering. Steve's name is Ron, and I've lived all my life between central and north central Ohio. Listening to you tell our stories, I can now say that if you are reading this one, has triggered a few memories from a not-so-recent history. Hearing you read a few stories detailing with or regarding a dogman/cryptid has triggered a memory, not only from myself, but also from a long-ago girlfriend from my high school days. Before the story, let me tell you a little about myself. I've worked construction and construction management for a life career spanning 58 years, leading up to a well-earned retirement at age 72. For the last 26 years, I've worked for an environmental engineering company in the environmental management field, doing contracts for many U.S. government agencies. Most of these projects I can't speak of any of the details or location. Let's just say that I've worked in all but 4 states within the continental U.S., cleaning up hazardous and nuclear waste from sites involved with Manhattan-era project locations. On several sites over those years, I've had some long and interesting conversations with on-duty security guards about the areas where our work was being done. I got a feeling this is going to get quite good. One site in particular, let's just say east of the Mississippi and south of the Ohio, we were working outside but close to the perimeter security fences. Dumping their waste in the back 40. Out of sight and out of mind is a regular practice with the government even today. Late one afternoon, 2 of the guards stopped near where we were working and motioned for me to come to the fence. Normally this would not be received too well, but when we'd been given permission to approach, I was glad to comply. Yes, these guards were armed with assault-type rifles, and it was in our security briefings that we would be advised not to approach them without permission. The lead guard asked what hours our shift would be working, and specifically how late in the day. We had recently asked for extended shift hours since we were behind schedule, and I assumed they were worried about shift changes or something similar. To my surprise, he said we should be cautious about being separated from other crew members if we intended to be working late and after dark. Red flag. He recommended working in groups of no less than 3. When I asked for more details about his concern, he said, let's just say we get a lot of reports of hollering apes, and we get tired of making repairs to the fences on a regular basis. When I asked him to describe these hollering apes, he just said, all I can say is they are quite large, and the noise will make your skin crawl. I asked him if he ever seen one, and he said, my official answer is no, never. When he was answering, he was nodding his head. I've had conversations across the U.S. and other sites with other security people having similar topics of discussion. Officially, they all say they haven't experienced anything, but the detail in their warnings say otherwise. Now to my dogman story. I was 16 years old. I was driving a 67 Merc Cougar. Even now, I miss that car. My girlfriend at the time and I were parked a ways off the road on a logging road in the middle of 150-acre woods. We were trying to fog up the windows before I took her home. I was laying back against my driver's door, and she was comfortably laying against me while we snuggled. All at once, she screamed and jumped back against her side door. Her eyes were the size of saucers, and she was looking past me out my window. I turned my head and looked straight into the eyes of the biggest hound's head I'd ever seen. His neck was bent down as he looked in the window, and his mouth was half open, showing some amazingly long fangs and drooling. My cougar was 4.5 feet off the ground to the top of the roof, making his back above the car. Holy shit. I've never seen a dog that size in our country. Even our neighbor's Great Dane was small in comparison. Since it was winter, my car was already running, and I had to back out of the lane quite a ways and was concentrating on not hitting any trees before I could turn around, so I couldn't watch to see if we were being followed. My girlfriend had her face in her lap and was crying. And needless to say, I avoided those woods for the remainder of my dating career. That particular girlfriend would never go out with me again, but we have remained friends for all our lives. I ran into her a year or so ago at a reunion event and asked her if she remembered that night. And she almost broke into tears and said she's had nightmares about it her entire life. I told her how to find you on YouTube and suggested she start listening to your readings, and maybe it would help. Back then, we had no reference to Dogman, only the werewolf and Lon Chaney Jr. Someday, maybe I'll write in and share about my First Nation spirit guide that has protected me all my life. Thanks for all you do for us, Steve. You've inspired my wife and I to become more involved in our community, helping the less fortunate. God bless you and your wife for all you do for others and us. Ron. All right, that is super awesome news. Inspired to be involved in your community helping. Bingo. Right? Beauty. Your native spirit guide? I'm all over it. I would really, really love to hear about that too. And I hope you forward this video off to your friend. All right? And a quick note for her, if you're watching, you're not alone. There's possibly tens of thousands of people that have had the same experience of you or similar. All right? It's just the way it is. It's real. You're not crazy. You're not alone. Yeah. That's a big frickin' canine, right? Very odd. Very alarming. And what would you do if you seen that in the woods? The size of that? It's about the size of a moose. Excuse me, with short legs. That's how I describe grizzly bears. I'm telling people, if we're looking for grizzly bears, I always tell them, just look for a moose with short legs. Same size, right? Same color, usually. Anyways, the note I was going to make was the magnums that I carry in the woods, they knock down a huge grizzly bear like nothing. So I'm just picturing what I would do if I seen what you described. Yeah, I'm thumping it. I'm thumping it for sure. Right between the eyes, and I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to throw a bone or a stick and see if he wants to play. I have had another guy who emailed me on this, didn't want me to share his story publicly, but the gist of it, what he saw was something you described right here to a T, but it walked across from the left to right in front of us, whatever he was driving. He was camping in it, and he was fishing up north in BC on the coast. And he said this thing just walked across in front of his headlights like it owned the joint. And the back of it was well above the hood of his pickup. He had a 4x4, whatever, I forget, Jeep pickup, but the back was well over the hood. But he said it was more of a hyena almost look to it as well. I don't know what to make of that. I haven't a clue. Do I believe there is a method where, something's going on where numerous unknown species or beings are coming and going? Without a doubt. 110% I believe that. Without a doubt. If something's that large living, just like a wolf, a natural predator, they're going to be breeding. There's enough hunters out there, there's enough bait piles and trail cameras, you're going to catch it. If it's just your average flesh and blood natural predator, but an abnormal size, you're going to see it. You're going to find a carcass, you're going to find the kills, you're going to find the footprints, you're going to get it on a trail camera. Trappers are going to get them hitting their bait piles. If it's just your regular living animal, flesh and blood, which I do not believe, I can't say I don't believe they are. They are, but are they full-time here? What do you guys think? What do you guys think? Are these things here full-time? Or are they coming and going? You know? Is the veil thin somewhere? At certain times, for certain amounts of time. I don't know. It's very, very confusing. Alarming as shit. Do I believe that's what you two saw? Absolutely. Absolutely believe it. Anyway, yeah, the government throwing garbage. Just like, remember? We had that high up military professional a few years ago. I got to dig up his emails. A few years back, he said flat out, we had that meeting when that government lawyer faced him and said flat out, in case you're not on the same page, the government does not care about anything except control of the labor to appease the entity. Remember that one? That's still sitting fresh as a daisy on a shelf back here. Because every time I see some kind of weird shit show going on, that sentence statement rings and fits like a glove. And that's why I remember that sentence when you just said, they're tossing their shit into the back 40 where nobody looked. The government's doing it. I'm like, instant. The government don't give a shit about nothing except, right? But anyway, there we go. Enough babble for today. Long, hard grind this past handful of days being down and out. Wow. But today's probably the best day I've had. That's good. Get this ivermectin kicking ass too. And I will be back tomorrow. Share my story, howtohunt.com. Get it to me, alright? Get it to me. I'll be back later.